Most relationships don't end in arguments. They don't end in betrayal, and they don't end in some dramatic final moment. They end quietly, slowly, almost invisibly. One day she's interested, and a few weeks later, something just feels off. No fight, no explanation, just distance. And here's the part that shocks most men. Attraction rarely dies because of one big mistake. It dies because of small behavioral patterns that repeat until the emotional connection silently shuts down. So the real question is, what are you doing right now that is slowly turning her feelings off without you even realizing it? In this video, you're going to understand 5 subtle behavioral mistakes that quietly destroy attraction over time. Not extreme actions, not cheating, not obvious red flags. We're talking about micro behaviors, emotional habits, communication patterns that slowly shift how a woman feels around you. And this isn't opinion. It's grounded in established relationship psychology, things like emotional attunement, reward systems, attachment dynamics, and perceived partner value. By the end, you'll start recognizing patterns you've probably ignored for years, and more importantly, you'll understand how to reverse them before they cost you another connection. Let's get into it. You say something simple, maybe your opinion, maybe a decision, then you feel the need to justify it. You add extra sentences, extra reasoning, you try to make it sound correct. At first, it feels harmless, even polite, but over time, something shifts. In social psychology, this relates to perceived certainty. People naturally trust individuals who communicate with clarity and emotional stability, not those who constantly negotiate their own statements. Here's what she starts to feel, even if she can't explain it. You don't fully stand behind yourself, and attraction begins to weaken quietly. Now, the fix is not silence, it's precision. Say what you mean. Once, calmly, no emotional over-editing, let your words stand on their own, because the moment you start defending every sentence, you stop sounding grounded, and that leads to the next subtle shift. At the beginning, she liked your presence, your energy, your consistency, but slowly you start asking small, indirect questions. Are we okay? Did I do something wrong? Do you still feel the same? At first, she reassures you, but over time, something changes internally. Attachment theory explains this clearly. Repeated reassurance seeking creates perceived emotional instability in the partner seeking it. And here's the paradox. The more reassurance you ask for, the less safe you feel to the other person, because now she becomes responsible for regulating your emotional state. So instead of being a source of stability, you become a source of emotional pressure. The fix is internal grounding. Learn to sit with uncertainty without immediately trying to fix it through her validation. Because attraction grows where emotional pressure is low, and that brings us to something even more subtle. She messages you. You reply instantly, always. She calls. You pick up no matter what. You adjust your plans, your time, your rhythm. At first, this feels like effort, like care, but psychology shows something important about availability and reward systems. When access is too easy, emotional value decreases, not because she doesn't like you, but because there is no contrast, no space, no tension, and attraction needs contrast. If your presence is always immediate, it stops carrying weight. So what should you do? You don't disappear, you don't play games, you simply become structured. You have your own rhythm, your own priorities, your own timing, because people don't value constant access. They value meaningful access. And now we move to something even more misunderstood. She says something slightly teasing, or challenges you lightly, and you react too fast, too emotionally. Maybe you get defensive, maybe you over-explain, maybe you try to fix the tone immediately. But what she's actually observing is not the content of your response, it's your emotional control under micro pressure. In behavioral psychology, this is linked to impulse regulation and emotional threshold sensitivity. Highly reactive responses signal instability. Controlled responses signal groundedness. And here's the key detail most men miss. It's not about being cold, it's about being steady. You can smile, you can engage, but your emotional center doesn't shift dramatically with small stimuli. So the practical shift is simple. Pause, breathe, then respond. because your reaction is telling her more than your words ever will. And now we reach a turning point. At the beginning, you had your own life, your routines, your goals, your focus. But slowly, without noticing, your world starts revolving around the relationship. Your decisions begin to depend on her mood, her availability, her interest level. And psychologically, this creates something very important: perceived identity loss. When a man's identity becomes dependent on the relationship, attraction often decreases. Not because love is gone, but because polarity disappears. She no longer feels you as a separate, grounded individual. She feels you as emotionally merged, and merged emotional states reduce attraction over time. So the fix is not distance, it's identity preservation. Keep your goals active, your structure intact, your personal direction clear. Because attraction thrives when two complete individuals choose each other, not when one dissolves into the other. Here's something most people never realize. A study in relationship dynamics shows that emotional dissatisfaction rarely comes from one major event. It comes from repeated microdrops in perceived partner value over time, small shifts, barely noticeable in the moment, but cumulative in effect. So ask yourself this: if she observed your last 30 days of behavior silently, would she see consistency and strength, or gradual emotional drift? Because that answer usually explains everything. At the core of all of this is something deeper than behavior, it's self-regulation, because attraction is not just emotional chemistry, it is emotional experience over time. How someone feels around you repeatedly becomes their truth about you, not the first impression, not the best moment, the pattern. And when these small behaviors accumulate, over-explaining, over-availability, emotional reactivity, loss of identity, they don't destroy love instantly. They slowly remove tension, stability, respect, emotional curiosity, and without those elements, attraction doesn't crash, it fades quietly. But here's the important part. This is not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming aware. Because once you see these patterns, you stop operating unconsciously. And the moment you become conscious of your behavior, you regain control over how you show up in relationships. Not through manipulation, but through awareness. If this resonated with you, it probably means you've experienced at least one relationship where things didn't end dramatically, they just slowly faded. And that usually leaves more confusion than closure. So I want to ask you something real. Which of these behaviors have you noticed in yourself before, without realizing its impact at the time? Share it in the comments, and in the next video, we'll go deeper into something even more important. Why some men create intense attraction at first, but slowly lose emotional pull even when they do everything right. Because understanding attraction is one thing, but maintaining it is a completely different skill. And remember this: what destroys attraction is rarely what you do once, it's what you repeat without noticing.